Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q3 FY21 earnings conference call of Torrent Power Limited, hosted by IIFL Securities Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star, then zero on a touch-tone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Harshvardhan Dole from IIFL Securities Limited. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, greetings to everybody. On behalf of IIFL Securities, I welcome you all for the third quarter earnings call of Torrent Power. Today, to discuss the detailed results with us, share the performance outlook, we have the senior management team of Torrent Power. Today we have Mr. Saurabh Mashruwala, VP Finance, Rishi Shah, GM Finance, and Jaiprakash Khanwani, Manager Finance. I would request Saurabh bhai to make opening remarks, subsequent to which we can open the floor to the Q&A. Over to you, Saurabh bhai.
Thank you, Harsh. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for the joining earnings call of the Torrent Power for Q3. We'll take you to the performance of the quarter first, and thereafter the phone lines will be open for the Q&A session. We'll first explain the PBT level, and then tax expenses will be taken up separately thereafter. Reported PBT for the quarter is 399 crores as compared to 315 crores reported in the corresponding quarter last year. This is higher by about 84 crores, roughly 27%. Here we would like to highlight that against the degrowth witnessed in the earnings during the first half of the current year, the company has registered a PBT growth of 27% during this quarter. If you recollect, during the first half, this pandemic has impacted the franchise distribution business, and our volume was lower. Even T&D losses are also shoot up. It has impacted the collection efficiency. So all three drivers of the franchise distribution business has recovered during the course of the quarter, and we have showed the marked improvement in the franchise distribution area. I will now explain the effect of two non-recurring items during the quarter to understand the underlying performance of the company. The first non-recurring item is there was a marked improvement. As I said, there was a marked improvement in the collection efficiency in franchise distribution business due to revival of economic activities and increased vigilance activities by the company, which has resulted in the recovery of the past overdue of 31 crores for the quarter. So if you recollect in Q1, in last year Q4, we have provided about 48 crores of bad debt provision. And Q2, we have provided about 91 crores of bad debt provision. Roughly about 140 crores of bad debt provision we have provided for our franchise distribution business, out of which we have recovered about 31 crores in Q3. And we expect that the balance amount, significant amount, I would say, we will able to recover during the next 3 quarters. The second non-recurring item is, as we explained in the last Q2, that there was a 42 crores of fuel under recovery in our Uno Sujan project that was recovered in Q3. However, another under recovery of 37 crores was generated for Uno Sujan project, which will be also recovered in Q4. So net effect of this adjustment is about 5 crores positively. So both these two items together, we have a net non-recurring credit of about 36 crores for Q3. There was no non-recurring item for the comparable quarter of the last year. So considering these two non-recurring items, adjusted PBT for the quarter stood at 363 crores as compared to reported PBT of 315 crores for the corresponding quarter of the last year, which is higher by about 48 crores, roughly about 15%. Now on an adjusted basis, PBT was higher about 48 crores. This is on account of, there are 3 reasons which has contributed to the rise in the PBT. First is the reduction in the finance cost by 45 crores. This is mainly on account of two factors. One is our absolute debt amount is lower, average debt amount is lower during this quarter as compared with the corresponding quarter of last year. And there is a reduction of rate of interest by 140 basis points, which these two reasons have contributed lower finance cost by 45 crores. Second reason of better performance is we have added a renewable capacity during the course for the quarter. So our operating capacity for the quarter is higher at 737 megawatt as compared with 663 megawatt comparable quarter of last year. So which has resulted also in improving the PBIDD by 14 crores. And due to pandemic, our merchant sales was also down. So there is an impact on the merchant volume as well as merchant contribution, which has impacted our PBIT by 14 crores. So all put together, there is a net increase of about 48 crores in the PBT numbers for the current quarter. As we said, that there has been a marked improvement in the operating performance for the quarter on quarter-to-quarter basis, reflecting improving condition of the economy. This can be reflected from the fact that the year-on-year demand degrowth of Q3 distribution license business was about 1%. Our distribution license business degrowth was 1%, and the franchise degrowth is about 3%, as compared with 15% in license distribution and 18% franchise distribution of Q2. So there is a marked improvement in the volumes during the course of the quarter. Now moving on to the PBT numbers, PAT numbers. Consolidated PAT reported for the quarter is about 320 crores as compared with 416 crores in corresponding quarter last year, which is lower by 96 crores, or about 23%. This is mainly on account of the one-time credit we have received on account of reduction in the MAT rate from 21.55% to 17.47%. So because of the tax credit available during the corresponding quarter of the last year, huge tax credit we have recognized, and so that there is a credit during the course of last quarter. So this completes the overview of the performance. Now we request to open the Q&A session. I'm handing over to the operator for Q&A session.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may please press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Subhadip Mitra from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Firstly, just wanted to understand what would be the absolute debt level as of now vis-a-vis last quarter?
The debt level as of now, as on December, is about 8,400 crores as compared with 8,600 crores as on September. So reduction about 200 crores.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, also wanted to understand that are we looking at more renewable additions coming up in FY 21 and 22, and when you're expecting these to come up, and how much of your equity would or the invested equity would go up because of this?
We are keen on solar side, not on the wind side. So solar on a selective basis, we are evaluating the proposal and we are participating in the bidding. So we have participated in the UANL bidding, and we have also participated in the Andhra Pradesh bidding also.
Okay. Is there anything that is currently work in progress which you're expecting to come up in the next, say, 12 or 18 months?
A couple of states is also considering the solar installation, like for example, our TPLD, our own distribution also is also to meet their RP obligation. They are also coming up with the bid also, bidding also. Plus, a couple of states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan also, they are also considering. So we will evaluate each proposal separately and then participate in the bidding.
Understood. But those would be for future bids. But the ones that you have already won, like the GUVNL bid,
Yes.
etc.
Yes.
When are you expecting that to get commissioned?
GUVNL is about 18 months. So from the, it is a time given is about 18 months to commission the project. And AP is not yet, it is, though the winner was announced, but similar period will be for the AP also.
But I think just to add to that, it is right now sub judice, so it is difficult to tell when that period will start. So
Understood. Okay. And the GUVNL one, you're looking at a 30% kind of an equity?
Yes.
Last question from my side would be on the distribution side with, more opportunities coming up. How do you see, that space opening up, and where are probably the opportunities that you would be seeing?
Government has shown their intent to privatize the union territories. So Daman and Diu has already, everybody has submitted the bid. Even Chandigarh also bidding has happened. And we are waiting for the more union territories to come. So we have submitted the bid in case of Daman and Diu and Chandigarh also.
Understood. Any indicative capex that one might think of about these areas?
No, let's see. Once the bidders will be announced, means the winner will be announced, and after that, I think plan will be finalized.
Understood. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mohit from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
yeah, Mohit.
Yeah. Congratulations for a reasonably good quarter, sir. So my first question is, how has the demand fared in January 2021 for our all the Discom area? Can you just if you're not giving the exact figure, can you just give a qualitative picture?
Okay. January, if you look at our Q2 demand, the growth was about 15% in license distribution area and 18% in the franchise distribution area. It was a degrowth. In Q3, it has improved to about -1% in our license distribution area, and -3% in the franchise distribution area. We expect that the January demand is almost on a similar level as compared with the last quarter, comparable quarter of the last year. So roughly same level, I would say.
And has the collection efficiency improved further in January 2021, especially in Bhiwandi?
The collection efficiency in case of Bhiwandi and Agra, which was 107% in Q3, which has improved to, it will be on a similar level, I would say, in the month of January.
Understood, sir. So last question, sir. Can you just give a breakup of EBITDA business-wise, which you used to give in previous quarters?
EBITDA business-wise, you want EBITDA or PBIDT?
Anything, sir. EBITDA.
Yeah, EBITDA is a gas-based project is about 218 crores for the current quarter. And the comparable quarter was about 239 crores. And for our renewal business, it is about 129 crores for the current quarter. And comparable quarter of last is 110 crores. License business, it is 327 crores for the current quarter of Q3. And comparable quarter is about 322 crores. Our franchisee business is on the 197 crore for the current quarter, and the same level, it remains on the same level of for comparable quarter of last year. The franchisee business has recovered well, and it has reached to the same level of the last year. So these are the segment-wise EBITDA breakup of the company.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of D. Anand from White Oak Capital. Please go ahead.
So two questions from my end. First is, I think there is a ROE revision due in 23, and is my understanding correct? And if yes, then can you give me a sense of the various business segments that we operate in that might come under this ROE revision?
ROE, there is no, as of now, there is no any mandate from the GRC for the revision in the ROE.
Okay. So this in the foreseeable future, we don't expect any changes in the regulated ROE for any of our segments.
It depends on the new MYT regulation coming in. They have postponed the MYT regulation by 1 year.
So, Anand, Rishi here, just to add to what Saurabh told. So, this ROE on generation and on distribution is covered by separate regulators. So, our generation is covered by CERC, who recently, in last year they had announced a 5-year MYT regulations, wherein they have not changed the ROE regulations. So, for next 5 years, that will remain the same for our generation portfolio is concerned. As far as our distribution portfolio is concerned, it is covered under GERC norms. And GERC MYT regulations are supposed to come in this year, which has been deferred for 1 year. But we don't expect any change in the base ROEs which have been given to us till date. And if you compare it with all India ROEs, it is one of the lowest in the country. So our expectation is that it should not change as far as ROE for our distribution business is concerned.
Sure. And sir, with regards to the broad opportunity in the sector for next, let's say, 3 years, how do you see, which areas do you see maximum capital allocation, and how do you see next 3 years for us as a company?
We are very keen on this union territory privatization. So that is the one opportunity we are looking at. Second opportunity, we are looking at the solar projects, various proposal we are evaluating, and so solar is the next opportunity. And third is the transmission. Area. These are the 3 areas where we are looking at to invest further capital.
Sir, in privatization, the first one, can you elaborate? Like you said, which particular privatization are we eagerly?
We have participated in this Dadar, Daman and Diu Union Territory. We have also participated in Chandigarh also.
Okay.
And see as far as capex is concerned, it is generally spread out capex, not like a upfront capex. Like for example, Bhiwandi and Agra, which we have taken over. Our capex spending is spread out for a couple of years, I would say, first couple of years. So similar kind of capex we have to invest in this kind of union territory also. Like it will be in a phase manner, I would say.
Okay. And in distribution, I imagine we have some options that are planned. Any particular sense on, because you haven't mentioned distribution franchisee as an age of capital allocation for next 3 years. So,
any new franchise which will comes up, we will evaluate it. But as of now, these 2 union territories we are looking at.
Okay, and there hasn't been any formal announcement by any state for any particular cities, or there isn't a planned roadmap in terms of privatization?
Not yet by any state government as of now.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back in the queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manali from Centra Advisors LLP. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one question. I just want to understand what would be the cost of your gas for this quarter? Imported gas.
1 second. It is about between $5 to $5.50.
Okay. Imported gas is on spot, and how much is contracted?
It is, see, we have contracted long back, so it is, we have not contract on spot basis, so
Okay.
it is about $5.50 kind of a thing was the cost of gas.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aniket Mittal from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, sir. So just firstly on the DF front, just to get a clarification on the EBITDA number that you mentioned for DF, which is 197 crores, at the same level. Does this include the 31 crores of recovery?
No.
So this is an adjusted number.
Okay, this is an adjusted. Okay, good. And just to get some clarity in terms of how do we see demand panning out within the segment for the DF segment for FY22 and our view on the AT&C loss trajectory over there.
The demand for the franchise distribution business expected to grow by about 5 to 6%. And I'm just giving you the AT&C loss number for the YTD for franchise distribution of QC. Then we can talk about what is going to happen for the next year. So YTD numbers of Bhiwandi is about 17.31% AT&C losses, and Agra is about 18.55%. So we expect that these numbers will go down as during FY22, and maybe would be settle around. Our aim is to settle around 12 to 13% kind of a thing, 12% kind of a thing.
12 to 13% for both Bhiwandi and Agra.
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of demand also, given the fact that I think FY21 has been a muted year for demand, could this number for demand in DF be higher than 5 to 6%, or is that something that we're looking for FY22?
No, so I think it is difficult to give you an exact numbers on demand projections. On an average, if you look at for past some years, the demand has been growing at around 3 to 4% on a year-on-year basis. Now, if there is some pent-up demand, there could be an increase in demand for next year, but it is very difficult to tell any numbers per se as of now.
Sorry. My next question was on the capex front. If I have a look at your recent petition that you've made in GRC, you're projecting a capex of around 1,700 crores for Ahmedabad and Surat. So just wanted to understand, the reason for this high capex. Is it because of some, pent-up capex that would come on board? And at an overall group level, what is the capex that you are expecting for FY22?
So I think if you look at this year, and if you look at the estimates which we had given earlier also, we are expecting capex of 1,500 crores broken up into 1,200 crores and 300 crores for distribution licensee and franchise distribution business on a year-on-year basis. If you look at this year, the capex spend, it would be lower than the numbers which we had given because of lockdowns being imposed, and we have not been able to do much of capex, and that's why you are seeing a higher capex amount in next year, which is basically to take care of the capex which you have not spent in this year. But the estimate remains same, that 1,500 crores on year-on-year basis for next 2 to 3 years for our distribution license and franchise distribution business is put together.
So, just to get a sense on the FY21 then, what's the capex that we're looking for FY21, particularly on the DL front, the distribution license front?
Yeah, sure.
On capex front, I'm just giving you the actual numbers up to Q3. It's about 650 crores for license distribution, and franchise is about 125 crores for franchise distribution. This is the actual number up to Q3. We expect that the franchisee will be about about 900 crores for the full year. Sorry, license business, and the franchisee would be roughly about 225 crores kind of a thing. 200 to 225 crores, like franchisee business. For the year number.
Sure. And just about on the renewables, given the fact that we are now, we signed a PPA and we're going to construct this 100 megawatt of plant in Gujarat, what would be the capex related to that renewable project, and how would it be phased out in FY22 and 23?
So the capex expectation is around 380 to 400 crores for 100 megawatt solar project, which we have recently won from GUNL. And I think the major part of the capex will be done in end of Q3, Q4 of FY22, and some part will spill over to FY23.
Okay, so majority of that will come in 20. Got that. And so just one word, wanted to understand if there's any update on Amgen. We're now, I think, less than 20 months away from the December 22 deadline, and at the government level as well, I think there's been a bit of back and forth in terms of the implementation of those norms. So do we see Amgen having to retire by December 22?
So I think it is difficult to tell as of now. It is a status quo. So we are working or we are discussing this with different people or relevant people. But as of now, it is a status quo. It's difficult to tell as of now anything on that.
Okay. And so maybe just a related point to understand from your distribution, let's say license business, we do procure a decent amount from Amgen, right? So in a scenario, let's say when Amgen retires, would you have to make a call for a new long-term PPA?
You have to invite the competitive bid for the shortfall in license distribution area.
Sure, but you would be making a new call for a long-term PPA, right? Just to get that clear. If in a scenario, let's say where Amgen retires.
No, so if you look at the Amgen capacity, it's 362 megawatts, which is easy to take it from the merchant market. But we'll take a call at relevant point in time whether to invite for a long-term PPA or right now to carry forward with buying it from merchant market or on a short-term basis.
Makes clear. And just one clarity again on that. Let's say if you were to make a call for a long-term PPA, is there any obligation for you to do that for a renewable plant to meet your RP obligation? So what I'm trying to understand is, let's say Amgen retires and you decide to make a new long-term PPA, could that necessarily have to be a renewable-led capacity to meet your RPO?
No. I think RPO obligations are based on the number of units you sell in a particular area. So if you sell 1,000 units, there are percentages defined from different sources for which you need to comply with. So it has nothing to do with Amgen retiring and I am taking up a new PPA. Both are different events.
So the reason why I was looking at is if I look at your recent tariff order, I think your overall purchases for renewable from an FY22 perspective that you've petitioned comes to around 11%. So I was wondering, if you're planning to increase this 11%, let's say to 14-15%, that could possibly mean that you may have to tie up a long-term PPA on renewable.
No. So that is a separate thing. That's why our DISCOM has already come out with a tender for 300 megawatts for solar purchase. So what I'm trying to say is that's a separate event. It is not linked to Amgen decommissioning or not. In any case, you have to follow that.
Understood. And so just one question that I wanted some clarity on. I think, like you mentioned, the MYT regulation has been delayed by 1 year. So now we're looking at an MYT regulation to come in from FY23 to 27. And incidentally, I believe the initial license of our Ahmedabad business is valid till 2025. So before the MYT regulation comes in, is there any talk over the extension of this Ahmedabad distribution license?
No. So there is no such thing as extension of license. And MYT regulations are completely disconnected with the license expiring or not.
Okay. I mean, the reason I think, let's say if the MYT comes in for 5 years, right, it would be cognizant of the fact that who the operator within that area would be. just wondering,
No. 1 second. So MYT regulations for all the distribution licensee companies and all the generating companies in that particular area. So whomsoever may be the licensee, it applies to all the license holders there.
Okay. But I think license in Ahmedabad is valid till 2025, right? So would that get extended?
So as I said, there is no provision of extension of license.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mittal. May I request you to please rejoin the queue? We have two
Sure.
participants
I'll do
waiting for
that.
their
Yes,
turn.
thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jayesh Gandhi from Harshad Gandhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Since our plants are dependent on imported LNG, can you first let me know what percentage of our gas is domestically sourced, and also what is the increase in LNG price? How does it affect us? And typically long-term contracts that we do are for how many months or years?
So Jayesh, this is Rishi here. Just to give you an answer on the sourcing part of our LNG, for our PPA liabilities and for Sugen plant, we have a long-term contract with IOCL for nearly 20% of our requirements. We have also recently bought some gas from Reliance when it was auctioned. So around 20-25% of gas comes in from IOCL and Reliance. For balance requirements for our PPA liabilities, we source it from international markets. So as far as current sourcing is concerned, or current contracts are concerned, we have nearly tied up for all our PPA liabilities for next year, which is FY22, at an average price of around $4.
Okay. And one last question from my side is, what is the reason for T&D losses rising?
No, so if you look at Q1 and Q2, the T&D losses have gone up. The major factor being the mix change. So let's say if you have higher industrial demand and a lower retail volume, you'll tend to have lower T&D losses. But if that mix changes and it goes towards more of retail and less of industrial, the T&D losses tends to shoot up, because technically the high tension sale of electricity would have lower losses compared to a low tension sale. So if you look at Q1 and Q2, that was in that era industries were under lockdown, and that's why there was no consumption from industries, and that's why the T&D losses were up. If you look at Q3, they have significantly gone down because industries have started coming up back, and that mix is again going back to the original levels which we had seen in FY20.
That's all from my side, sir. Best of luck for future.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deva Modi, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yes. So first, just wanted an update on the DGEN plant. We understand that it is completely, right now, obviously, the PQ, there is no demand, so the PLF is not there. Going ahead, what are the various options in terms of demand rise or whatever it can happen, and in which regions it can, because Gujarat clearly has a demand-supply equation which is not going to be friendly for DGEN. How does it shape up on a regional basis for DGEN, and how do we look at ramping that up?
No, so sorry, Deva, I just lost the last part of your question. If you can just please repeat that.
What are the various options before us from, let's say, a 1 year to 5 year perspective to ramp up DGEN, and how does that look going ahead?
So DGEN per se, as we had discussed this on in the last call also, DGEN, we on a short-term perspective, we don't expect any long-term PPAs to come in for that plant. So for a short-term to medium-term, it would operate for a merchant capacities. So let's say slightly from a medium-term perspective, after 3-4 years, we expect that there could be some long-term PPAs which would start coming in because of various factors playing out in the market. So let's say higher renewable capacity into the grid would require gas-based power plants to be there. In fact, base demand also is expected to increase. which will require non-operating plants to start functioning. So all those factors putting in, I think on a slightly medium-term basis, we expect that there could be some long-term PPAs which should start coming in. Right now, if you look at the last 3-4 years or 5 years, there has hardly been any long-term PPAs which have been signed.
So what you mentioned regarding the renewable part, I think you have also mentioned in your investment rationale slide in the presentation that there is a flexible generation concept which can come in. So at what tipping point, I mean, at what level of renewable generation in a grid would that happen? Because we have been thinking of this since quite a period of time. Till now, obviously, we don't think any such arrangement has come in, wherein, apart from, I think, NTPC has some such arrangement. But probably no other such arrangements are coming in, and probably the government was also supposed to come up with a framework on this. So how is it looking on that front? How much time would elapse before something like that could come in, and what percentage of renewable in the grid needs to be there for something like that to come?
So Devam, it's NTPC. What you refer to NTPC was basically a pilot. On a pilot basis, they had been doing this. So those outcomes will come, and then government. I think government should form a policy on that. It is difficult to tell when it will come out. But bundling of power is definitely possible, and it should work. Now, at what levels of renewable capacity into the grid? I think around 15% and more. You will start seeing that the grid becomes unstable, not stable. So after that, I think there should be some requirement of this kind of spinning reserves available for the grid to maintain its stability.
So probably one incidence of grid instability due to high renewable power would lead to a trigger for doing something like this.
I can't comment on it, Devam, right now.
Yes, and generally, just one thought on if there are electricity futures, which I think MCX has just launched yesterday, and the presence of IEX itself, does that help us in any way in terms of launching small volumes on DGEN, or is that completely immaterial in terms of the volumes right now?
So I think DGEN is right now non-operational. So it is difficult commercially to start a non-operational plant for, let's say, 3-4 hours or 5 hours. You need to have a strong visibility at least for 15 days or 30 days for RTC power, so that it becomes commercially viable to start a non-operating plant.
Okay. And what kind of volumes, sales and EBITDA can be expected from the Shil-Mumra Kalwa over the next couple of years?
So I think Shil-Mumra Kalwa, the around 50 megawatts, which should grow at 4-5% kind of a range. But it's not a small area, so it will not change much.
50 MUs or 50 megawatts?
50 megawatts.
Okay. And what would be the current gross debt, cash and net debt?
Pardon?
What would be the current gross debt, cash and net debt?
Current gross debt is about 8,400 crores as on December, and cash would be about 1,000 crores.
Okay. So this includes the cash equivalent investments also?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, in the wind asset that we have bid at 1.99, what is the expected ROE and what kind of PLFs does it factor?
So we are expecting ROEs in low teens for this project. The PLF which we are expecting is around 27-28% on a AC basis.
Okay, sure. That's it from my side.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, please limit your questions to 3 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Jiten Rushi from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. 2 questions from my side. So can you give us the Q3 T&D loss for Bhiwandi and Agra, and also the AT&C losses for Ahmedabad and Surat? Q3.
Or T&D losses for YTD basis, because Q3 is not relevant. So on Ahmedabad YTD basis is 5.84% for Ahmedabad. Surat is 4.09.
So that is available on the presentation. If at all possible to view, otherwise it's okay. No problem. Sir, on these SNK, what was the losses for Q3 and how it is going to be going forward?
SNK T&D losses is 42%, 42.39% for Q3. And as trajectory would be.
So we'll keep on improving that, but right now this was handed over to us in February of 2020. Post which there was an imposition of lockdowns, and because of this COVID, we have not been able to do much in that area. But as per our estimates, it will take 3 to 4 years for us to break even in this area.
Right, sir. So any similar number for Bhiwandi Agra for Q3 losses if possible, or will take it offline?
Bhiwandi Q3 T&D losses was 14.43%. Agra is 4.7%.
And sir, on the receivable front, obviously receivable seems to have improved. So what would be the receivable using debtors around it or debtors base probably around December?
Sorry, can you please repeat again?
Receivables must have improved because we have seen a repayment of gross debt coming down. So what would be the outstanding receivables and the breakup of the overdue amount of more than 45 days or 3 months or 6 months?
So Jiten, we don't have that number handy. Can you get to know you offline?
No problems. And sir, on the dividend policy, can you throw some light on the dividend policy? We have seen the dividend of rupees 5.5 per share.
We have a dividend policy of distributing 30% of PAT. So that is what we generally follow the dividend policy. 30% of the PAT we generally distribute the dividend.
Right, sir. So that's it from my side. If I have more questions, I'll come back in the queue. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Dhruvam from HDFC Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Thank you so much. So first question was on the, so if I look at YTD basis, your debt has come down by about 500 crores, net debt. So you reported 8,400 crores gross and 1,000 crores of cash. So about 7,400 crores. And your FY20 closing was about 8,000 odd crores. So 500, 600 crores. So what would be, and if I see the cash generation this quarter for the 9 months is about 1,500, 1,600 crores. What I've done is EBITDA minus finance cost minus the cash tax. So I was trying to understand, of 1,600 crores, the debt has declined only 500 crores. So there should be some capex, but what would the remaining part be?
No, as he said, Dhruv, we have done capex of around 700 crores.
Okay.
This year. So it is not only related to capex. There will be certain cash outflows which have been accrued last year. Cash outflow would have occurred this year.
Okay. If 700 crores is the capex, then probably largely it explains, because then 800 crores is the cash flow generation and debt has declined by 500 crores. Then broadly it tallies. Got it, sir. So second question was on the earlier comment you made that your gas cost is freezed at $4. So this is for FY22, is it?
So the contracts which we have done for our liabilities under the PPAs are concerned. For those contracts, our gas cost is $4. Now we also have IOCL contract and some small contract with Reliance. That gas cost is not factoring in here. That would be higher because it is linked to Brent. So it is difficult to throw a light on how that cost will move. But the contracts which we have done for FY22 and cargoes which we have booked, that cost is around $4.
Okay. So this is the merchant or the X of long-term contracts that you have that you generally do. That is at $4.
That's right. Not for merchant. This is for my PPA liabilities.
For the PPA liability. Is there any booking that you have done for the merchant capacity in Sugen and Unu Sugen, the spare capacity that you have?
No, not so far. Not so far. For the next year.
Not yet. Okay. Because there's one interesting trend that we see on IEX on exchanges is that the peak power prices are again back to around 6 rupees, 5 rupees. And so earlier you used to, get advantage of these opportunities. You used to sell on exchanges at the higher prices. So I was just wondering, is that a chance still?
So I think, Dhruv, if you look at this quarter, in this quarter also we have sold some small quantities in IEX, mainly coming out of this peak power sales. So that can be done from Sugen and Uno Sugen, but for peaking power supply we cannot operate DGen. So
yeah,
it will not be.
I was wondering from Sugen, Uno Sugen only.
Yeah. So Sugen, Uno Sugen has sold some power on merchant basis in this quarter also, and that will keep on happening depending on how prices move on the merchant market.
But if you don't have that surplus gas available at affordable price, then it would be, the quantum will not be very significant. That is what I was trying to understand.
So Dhruv, it's difficult. So as far as peaking power is concerned, it can only be done from Sugen and Uno Sugen. Now typically Q1 and Q2 are the best quarters for electricity demand, right? Historically. So generally, if you look at DGen has we operate DGen in H1 of every year. H2 is typically a lull quarter for on a RTC basis is concerned.
Okay.
So once we get a good understanding on the demand, we would like to do some gas contracting for H1 of the next year for merchant capacities.
Got it. Okay, got it. And one last confirmation, you mentioned that your interest cost has, the interest rates has reduced by 140 bips, is it?
Yes, as compared with the comparable quarter of last year.
Okay. Okay. And this is, I mean, your long-term loans have resettled at 140 bips lower. This is not commercial papers that are, one-offs. I mean.
No, these are long-term.
Long-term.
Okay, great. Thanks all. That is all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Modi from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir, and congratulations on good numbers. So just a quick couple of questions. So when is our hard stop in terms of when you would like to contract for gas beyond 23? Because of late we've seen a lot of volatility in the Asia LNG prices. So from a sourcing strategy point of view, sir, how are you looking at it?
So Rahul, if you look at international markets, pre 2 years back or 3 years back, a lot of volumes were traded on a long-term basis. But last 2-3 years or 4 years, the shift has been from long-term contracts to a spot market, so to say. When I say spot, it could be 6 months, 12 months kind of a contracting basis. So earlier the supply chain itself was very inflexible. Now because of super tankers and all liquefaction and regasification capacities coming up in the country, it has become flexible now. So it is possible for you not to do a long-term contract, because essentially a long-term contract means you are assured of supplies and not of price, right? So, and ample gas available in the international market. We consider that we should do more of spot contracting. When I say spot, again I am repeating for the sake of repetition, it would be 6 to 12 months kind of an horizon. So we are continuously monitoring this and will decide at opportunistic point in time. But the estimate would be that we will be doing it for 6 months, 12 months kind of a contracting, and not for, let's say, 3 years or 5 years kind of contracting, because essentially it's a quality, supply contract rather than a price contract.
Okay, sure. So just one more question that I had again on the debt front. So we've seen a good enough reduction in the debt cost. So what is the average debt cost for our loan portfolio today?
Or about 7.75% roughly, as on December 20.
Okay. So you see this going down further, or is there any scope?
No, it can go down in a small number, but okay, it will not be as meaningful as what we saw in quarter.
Sure. Right. And sir, from a debt repayment point of view, over the next 2 years, obviously you have capex, but again, you've got some room to further reduce debt from your cash flows. So, what is the target that you're looking at to go down in terms of debt over the next 2-3 years, which is which you can do over and above the regulated debt in terms of reduction?
It all depends on our investment plan because some growth capital also will be required. So
Sure.
depending on the investment plan, we try to see that how much debt is reduction is possible.
So in terms of scope, I'm saying, so obviously that will vary, but I'm saying from an outer limit, if we assume that today what it is in terms of work in hand, so what can be a potential repayment over the next 2 years?
So, Rahul, I think our annual repayments, scheduled repayments are around 1,000 crores. Now, there could be a possibility we might do additional repayment of 100-200 crores. But looking at the projects which we have on hand or the projects which are coming up, I think better clarity will emerge once we have final outcomes of all those biddings which we have done.
Okay, sir. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aniket Mittal from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity once again. I think most of my questions have been answered. So just on the merchant market front, if you could quantify the volume and the revenue that you've earned on 3Q.
So I think we have sold around 48 MUs in 3Q from the merchant sales is concerned. And the average realization would be, or net contribution would be around 1.4 rupees per unit.
And how would that compare versus the previous year?
I think previous year it was around 99 MUs with a contribution of around 2 rupees.
Okay, understood. And so just maybe one last question, I think on the MYT regulation itself, there was a draft MYT that had come out, which I think was talking about a performance-linked ROE to come in place instead of the base sort of 14% ROE. So I think they're talking about a split between a base rate and a performance-linked ROE. So just wanted your thoughts on the same.
So I think first of all that is a draft regulation, so it is difficult to comment anything on that. But if let's say if we assume for one moment that will come in, our performance parameters, I think we are above those normative levels which have been specified. So for us, I think it will remain a status quo of 14% post-tax ROE.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. That's it from me.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Ramakrishnan from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Sir, my question again was coming back to the debt level. Given certain regulatory uncertainties and some projects not being able to generate enough capacity, how do you look at the overall debt levels in the sense that you have to make investments in new projects, but some projects are not getting the delivered returns. So, what is your view on debt? That's the only question I have, sir.
So we look at that on a balance sheet basis, first of all. So as far as our cash flows are concerned, they are more than sufficient to take care of the debt repayments or interest payment obligations are concerned. So on a balance sheet basis, we don't see any issues per se as far as debt or servicing is concerned.
No, sir, absolutely not. So I just meant in terms of the financial risk profile that you will maintain, because there will be some projects which generate very good returns and some which don't. So
okay. So just to answer your question, what we look at is that our net debt to EBITDA as a ratio, we would not like it to breach 3.5 on a long-term basis. So that's how we look at it on a consolidated basis.
Perfect, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Harshvardhan Dole from IIFL Securities Limited. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you. Saurabh bhai, I had actually two questions. One was actually pertaining to the renewable business, because some time ago we had kind of taken a write down on one of the projects that we had won. And we had taken a call that perhaps the risk reward is not that favorable as of now for the renewable project, and we'll evaluate a better entry time. Now, since then, the overall tariffs in this country have kind of collapsed. And on that backdrop, we have actually won a project by quoting one of the lowest tariffs for solar power projects. So I'm just trying to understand what has changed at the margin, and here on what should be the philosophy or the governing principle for growing the renewable business.
So, Harsh, this is Rishi here. As far as the contract which we have won, the GUNL contract, if you look at the counterparty, we were always, meaning we always wanted to have a counterparty which was good in terms of the risk associated with it. As far as other risks are concerned, because of which we had to take a write down on some of our wind portfolio or wind contracts, I think one major risk was land, which I think we have identified we have identified certain pockets of land on which we can do solar projects. So that risk we have sort of mitigated. As far as tariffs are concerned, if you look at 1.99, by quoting 1.99, we will still be making low teens IRR. That is mainly coming out of the cost of debt in the country has fallen from earlier levels. So if you look at our current cost of debt, it is around 7.75, and we are estimating for this project the cost of debt could be around 8.25 to 8.5%. As far as PLF is concerned, we are improving the technology, because of which we expect that the PLF from this project could be around 27-28%. So putting all this together, we expect low teens IRRs coming out of this project. So as far as risks and returns are concerned, we expect this to be a good project for us to come. As far as renewable strategy is concerned, we keep on looking at projects, and if it's and our benchmark return requirements would be around 13%. 13% in terms of base equity IRRs which we look at for any project. And as far as solar projects are concerned, we, as I said, land risk are more or less taken out because of some identification of lands which we have done. Also, some projects come with their own land allocations. So that risk has been taken out by these mitigation factors which we have done. And as far as return expectations are concerned, 13% could be a base level requirement which we want for any project.
Sure, very clear. So, investors should expect portfolio growth in this, growth in this portfolio on a risk-adjusted basis rather than just, return basis. So one should evaluate the risk and then look at the corresponding, returns. Will that be a fair statement?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure. Thank you very much. So, operator, please take the next question, please.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mohit from DAM Capital. Please go ahead. Mohit, may we request you to please go ahead with your question? Mohit, may we request you to please unmute your line if muted from your handset?
I think operator, if there are no further questions, let's take that as the last question, and let's hand over the line to the management for final comments.
Thank you. As there are no further questions from the participants, I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Yeah. Thank you very much for attending the call. That's all. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of IIFL Securities, I thank the management for giving us an opportunity to host this call. I also thank all the participants for dialing in and actively participating in the call. Thank you very much. In case if you have any further questions, drop me a line. I will have it answered through the management. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of IIFL Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.